My wife handed me divorce papers in the ICU. Sign it, she said, looking at my broken legs. I need a man who's complete, not this. I signed everything, the divorce, giving up my daughter, all of it. She smiled coldly. Pay your own hospital bills. What she didn't know. Her timing wasn't just cruel. It was criminal. My name is Cameron Wright. I'm 41 years old. And this is the story of how I learned that the person sleeping next to you can be a stranger planning your destruction. The ICU has a particular kind of silence. It's not peaceful. It's the silence of machines doing the work your body should handle on its own, of fluorescent lights that never dim, of that steady beep, 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 reminding you that you're still here whether you want to be or not. My right leg was wrapped from hip to ankle in a metal brace that weighed more than my thoughts. The left wasn't much better. The semi-truck had made sure of that when it T-boned my pickup at the intersection of Route 9 and Miller Street 3 days ago. The orthopedic surgeon had been careful with his words that morning. You'll walk again, Mr. Wright, he'd said, adjusting his glasses. But it's going to take time. Surgery, physical therapy, patience. Time. The one thing I thought I had plenty of. I was wrong. I heard footsteps before the door opened. Not rushed, not hesitant. Confident. The kind of steps that belong to someone who's already made up their mind about how the conversation will end. The door swung open, and there stood Kendra, my wife of 14 years. Her hair was perfect, pulled back in that way she wore it for important meetings. Her coat was pressed. Her face was composed, like she was walking into a business presentation instead of her husband's hospital room. In her hand was a manila envelope and a pen attached with a thin black cord. She didn't ask how I was feeling. She didn't look at the machines, at the 4 lines snaking into my arms, at the bruising that spread across my chest like spilled ink. She pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down, careful not to wrinkle her coat. Then she placed the envelope on the small table beside me, right next to the cup of ice chips the nurse had brought an hour ago. Sign these, Kendra said, sliding papers out with practiced ease. Her voice was flat, businesslike. I can't do this anymore. I stared at her, waiting for something. An explanation. An apology. Anything that acknowledged the 14 years we'd spent building a life together. Instead, she pushed the papers closer. Sign what? I managed, though part of me already knew. Divorce papers, she said, like she was ordering coffee. And this. She tapped a second document underneath. Voluntary relinquishment of parental rights for Camila. The words hit harder than the truck had. Our daughter. 10 years old. The kid who still wrote me notes and left them on my training manuals. You want me to give up Camila? My voice sounded strange, hollow. Kendra's eyes flicked to my legs, then back to my face. Look at yourself, Cameron. You think you can take care of a child like this? I need someone who can actually function. Someone whole. She paused, and her next words came out cold and measured. I want a man who's complete, not someone who's going to be a burden. I looked down at my legs. The white sheets. The metal braces. The reality of months of recovery ahead. My hands were shaking, partly from the medication, partly from something else I couldn't name yet. Where is she? I asked. Does Camila know I'm here? Kendra waved her hand, dismissively. I told her you had to go away for work. No point in traumatizing her with all this. Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger. Not yet. Recognition. When something confirms what you've suspected but refuse to admit, it stops being painful and starts being useful. I reached for the pen. My hand trembled as I gripped it, but I steadied it against the paper. I read through the documents. Divorce. Full custody to Kendra. Relinquishment of parental rights. The date printed at the top was today's date. She'd had these ready. Here's the thing they don't tell you about moments like this. Sometimes the only way forward is through. Sometimes you sign because you need them to think they've won. I wrote my full legal name, but I made one small change. Cameron J. Wright instead of Cameron James Wright. My middle initial only, when I always use my full middle name on legal documents. A tiny discrepancy, one that might matter later. When I finished, I handed the pen back and looked up. There. For a moment, Kendra looked surprised. Then her lips curved into something that might have been a smile if it had reached her eyes. Good, she said, gathering the papers quickly. This is better for both of us. She stood, adjusted her coat, checked her phone. Before she left, she turned back, and her next words landed like stones. Oh, and Cameron, you'll be paying your own hospital bills. I'm not covering this. She smiled then, cold and satisfied. Good luck. The door closed behind her with a soft click. I lay there, staring at the ceiling tiles, counting them the way you count breaths when you're trying not to drown. 1, 2, 3. The monitor beeped steadily beside me. The camera in the corner of the room kept its small red light blinking. The nurse's name was still written on the whiteboard by the door. Jenny Martinez, RN. I'd signed those papers, yes. But I'd also documented everything. The time on the monitor. The camera. The fact that I was still on pain medication. The way she'd stood there, coat perfect, voice cold, demanding I give up our daughter while I was strapped to a hospital bed. Kendra thought she'd just won. What she didn't know was that her timing, her words, her perfect composure, it was all evidence now. And evidence, unlike emotion, doesn't fade. I closed my eyes and let the medication pull me under. When I woke up again, I had calls to make. The phone felt heavier than it should when the nurse finally brought it to me. My fingers were stiff, clumsy from the medication, but I managed to unlock the screen. The first call I made was to Elliot Harrison. We'd known each other since college, back when neither of us had figured out what we wanted to do with our lives. He'd ended up in banking, compliance specifically, the kind of guy who asked questions first and never panicked. He answered on the second ring. Cameron? Jesus, I heard about the accident. How are you? I signed divorce papers an hour ago, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. In the ICU, while I'm on morphine. Silence on the other end. Not shock. Calculation. That's why I called him. Kendra brought them. Elliot asked. Walked in like she was closing a business deal. I replied. Didn't ask how I was. Just put the papers in front of me and told me to sign. Did you? Yes. I paused, letting that sink in. But there's more. She also had relinquishment papers. For Camila. She wants you to give up your daughter. Elliot's voice sharpened. While you're hospitalized? That's exactly what happened, I said. And she told me she'd already told Camila I was away on business. Our daughter doesn't even know I'm in the hospital. I heard Elliot exhale slowly, the sound of someone processing information and already thinking 3 steps ahead. Did you sign clearly? Full legal name. I signed, I said carefully, but I used my middle initial instead of my full middle name. Cameron J. Wright instead of Cameron James Wright. Smart. Elliot's tone shifted into something focused. That might give you leverage later. What else? She said she changed the insurance. I continued. Told me I'm paying my own hospital bills. She smiled when she said it. Elliot. Like she'd been planning this. When did she change the insurance? He asked immediately. I don't know yet, I admitted. But I want to find out. Elliot was quiet for a moment, then spoke with the careful precision I'd learned to trust. Listen to me carefully. Don't confront her. Don't warn her. Let her keep moving. Every move she makes now is a record. I'm going to make some calls. We need to see your bank accounts, any shared accounts, credit cards. Can you access your banking app? My hand shook as I opened the app on my phone. Yeah, I'm looking now. Tell me what you see, Elliot said. I scrolled through the checking account first. Balance looked normal. Recent transactions were familiar. Then I went deeper, checking pending items. There it was. A transfer scheduled for tomorrow morning. $5,000 to an account I didn't recognize. Listed vaguely as administrative expenses. Elliot, I said quietly, there's a pending transfer. $5,000. Tomorrow morning. I don't recognize the account. Take screenshots, he instructed. Right now. Make sure they're time-stamped. I did, my thumb moving across the screen mechanically. Anything else? Elliot asked. I dug further. Credit card statements. A new authorized user I'd never approved. There's someone authorized on our joint credit card. I said. I didn't do that. Cameron, Elliot said, his voice grave. She's not just leaving. She's been preparing this. How long have you been in the hospital? 3 days. Then she's been planning this longer than that. Much longer. Send me everything you just screenshotted. And, Cameron, get copies of your admission records. Every document. We're going to need them. After I hung up, I stared at the ceiling again. The machines beeped their steady rhythm. Somewhere in this city, Kendra thought she was ahead. Somewhere, my daughter believed I'd chosen work over her. But now I had proof. And proof, I was learning, was better than anger. Monica Reeves arrived the next morning with a leather portfolio and reading glasses that made her look exactly like what she was. A paralegal who'd seen every dirty trick in the divorce handbook. Elliot had called her, and she'd agreed to come personally. That told me he'd explained how bad this was. Mr. Wright, Monica said, settling into the chair beside my bed. Elliot, fill me in. I've been doing this for 26 years, and what your wife did yesterday ranks in the top 5 most brazen things I've seen. She opened her portfolio. Let's talk about your business. Tech Skills Certification Center, I said. I founded it 8 years ago. I'm the lead instructor, handle all the technical training, client relationships. And who's listed as the owner? Monica asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. Kendra. The word tasted bitter. She convinced me 5 years ago to register it under her name. Said it would be better for taxes, for liability protection. I trusted her. Monica nodded, making notes. Let me guess. She's listed as owning 51%. How did you know? Because it's a common setup for what comes next, Monica said. She has controlling interest, which means legally, she can make decisions about the business without your approval. She looked up. Has she made any unusual business decisions recently? File any paperwork? I thought back, my mind working through the medication fog. 3 weeks ago, she said she needed me to sign some routine administrative documents. Insurance updates, she called them. Do you remember what they said? I skimmed them, I admitted. I was preparing for a major certification course. Had 40 students enrolled. I trusted her to handle the paperwork side. The reality hit me. She could have been filing for anything. Elliot's already requested copies of any recent business filings, Monica said. But Cameron, you need to understand something. If she's got controlling interest and has filed the right documents, she could be positioning to remove you entirely from your own company. My hands tightened on the bed rails. While I'm in the hospital. While you're in the hospital, Monica confirmed. It's ruthless, but it's not illegal if the paperwork is structured right. However, she leaned forward. The timing matters. A judge might look unfavorably on someone making major business moves while their spouse is incapacitated. I closed my eyes, thinking about the students who trusted me, the reputation I'd built, the certifications I'd spent years developing. What else did Elliot find? He's tracking 3 credit cards that were opened in your name over the last 4 months, Monica said. Total balance of $47,000. Charges for things like luxury hotels, restaurants, shopping. Nothing that looks like business expenses. I didn't open those cards. I know, Monica said, but they're in your name, which means in the divorce, Kendra can argue their marital debt that should be split 50-50. The anger that had been simmering started to build into something hotter, more focused. She's trying to bury me. She's trying to bury you. Monica agreed. But here's what she doesn't know. That signature you gave her yesterday, the one with just your middle initial, that's going to be our opening. And the fact that you were on documented pain medication when she demanded you sign relinquishment papers for your daughter. She smiled grimly. That's going to be our weapon. After Monica left, I requested my phone again and pulled up the school district website. It took some searching, but I found a parent portal login. Kendra had set it up years ago, and I still had the password saved. Camila's attendance records loaded slowly. My daughter had missed 23 days of school in the last 6 months. 23. The notes section showed multiple instances of tardy, unprepared, homework incomplete. My 10-year-old daughter, who'd never missed more than a handful of days, was falling apart. And Kendra hadn't said a word. I took screenshots of everything, my jaw tight. Then I sent them to Monica with a simple message. More evidence. The physical therapist arrived an hour later. Young, determined, the kind who didn't accept excuses. We're going to try standing today, she announced. It hurt worse than anything I'd felt since the accident. Fire shot through my legs, my hips, my spine. But I gripped the rails and held myself upright for 10 seconds. When I collapsed back onto the bed, sweating and shaking, the therapist smiled. That's progress, Mr. Wright. Progress. I take it. Because Kendra was out there somewhere thinking she'd already won. But every second I stayed standing was another second I was getting stronger. And I was going to need every bit of that strength. Elliot called back that afternoon, and his voice carried a weight I hadn't heard before. Cameron, I found something. You need to hear this. I shifted in the bed, ignoring the pain that flared. What? The consulting firm that's listed on that pending transfer? I had someone dig into it. It's an LLC registered to a guy named Kenneth Bryant. Ring any bells? The name hit me like cold water. Ken Bryant. He worked for me 7 years ago. Worked for you? Elliot repeated. I fired him, I said, the memory coming back sharp and clear. He was falsifying client completion records, claiming students had passed certifications they hadn't actually earned. I caught him, confronted him, and fired him on the spot. He threatened to sue, but nothing came of it. Elliot was quiet for a moment. Cameron, Kenneth Bryant has been in contact with Kendra for the past 11 months. Email records show regular communication about financial restructuring and asset protection strategies. The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. He came back for revenge. Looks that way, Elliot said. And he found the perfect weapon. Your wife. Does he know about the business registration? I asked. I bet money on it, Elliot replied. This feels coordinated. She gets control of the business, he helps her hide assets, and they both get what they want. Her, a clean exit with everything. Him, payback for getting fired. I lay there processing it, my mind working through the implications. What else do we know about him? That's the interesting part, Elliot said. Bryant's married. 15 years. 3 kids. His wife is Jennifer Bryant, daughter of Harold Copeland. The Copeland who owns Copeland Industries. I asked, recognizing the name. The same. Ken Bryant married into serious money. He's been living off his wife's trust fund for years. Elliot paused. Which means if his wife finds out he's helping another woman hide assets in a divorce, she might have questions about why he's so invested. That's leverage, I said. That's leverage, Elliot agreed. I'm having someone look into Bryant's consulting practice. If he's been doing this for other divorces, if he's been coaching women on how to hide money from their husbands, that's not just unethical. It could be illegal. After Elliot hung up, I stared at the ceiling and thought about Ken Bryant. 7 years ago, he'd stood in my office and called me every name he could think of, said I'd ruined his career, that I'd regret it. I thought he was just blowing off steam. I'd been wrong. He'd spent 7 years planning this, waiting for the right moment. And when Kendra started looking for a way out, he'd been right there, ready to help. Not because he cared about her, but because he wanted to destroy me. Well, he'd made one mistake. He'd underestimated how much I cared about my daughter, and how far I'd go to protect her. The nurse came in to check my vitals. As she worked, I asked, "Do you know if there's been any other visitors asking about me?" "Just your wife yesterday," she said. "What?" "Just curious. I'll watch her note something on my chart. Can you do me a favor? If anyone else asks about me, or tries to visit, can you let me know first?" She studied my face for a moment, then nodded slowly. "I'll make a note in your file." After she left, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "Dad? It's me. I borrowed a friend's phone. Mom said you're too busy to talk. Are you really away for work? Camila." My hand shook as I typed back. "Sweetheart, I'm not away for work. I was in an accident, but I'm okay. I'm in the hospital. I've been thinking about you every minute." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, Mom lied to me. I closed my eyes. This was the moment. I could protect Camila from the truth, or I could give her the truth and let her be angry. But anger, I was learning, was better than confusion. "Yes," I typed. She did. "But I'm going to fix this. I promise." The reply came fast. "Can I call you?" "Yes. Anytime. Use this number." My phone rang 10 seconds later, and I heard my daughter's voice, small and scared and so achingly familiar it made my chest hurt. "Daddy." "I'm here, Cammy," I said. "I'm right here." The private investigator's report arrived by email 2 days later. Monica had recommended him, a former cop named Ray Kowalski who specialized in divorce cases. What he found made my blood run cold. Kendra had been renting an apartment across town for the past 8 months. Not a small place either. 2 bedrooms, parking garage, upscale building. Monthly rent of $20 to $100, all paid from our joint savings account under vague descriptions like office supplies and business expenses. But that wasn't the worst part. Kowalski had found her Instagram account. Not the one I knew about, the family-friendly one with pictures of Camila's soccer games and our vacation photos. This was a different account, registered under her maiden name, Kendra Ross. The photos told a story I'd been too blind to see. Kendra without her wedding ring, wearing clothes I'd never seen, at restaurants I'd never been to. Captions like "finally living my truth" and "new chapter, new me." Pictures with Ken Bryant, his arm around her waist, both smiling at some rooftop bar. The timestamps went back 11 months. One post from 3 weeks ago showed her at some upscale spa. The caption read, "Self-care isn't selfish. Investing in the woman I'm becoming." The comments section was full of supportive messages from people I didn't recognize. I scrolled further back. There was a photo from 6 months ago, Kendra in a designer dress I'd never seen her wear. "Successful women don't wait for permission," the caption said. 2,300 likes. Elliot called while I was still staring at the screen. "You see the report?" "I'm looking at it now," I said, my voice tight. 8 months. She's had a whole separate life for 8 months. "It gets worse," Elliot said. "Remember those cosmetic procedure charges we found? Kowalski tracked them down. She spent $21,000 in the last 4 months. Botox, fillers, laser treatments, new wardrobe, all from your joint savings." "While telling me we needed to be careful with money," I said quietly. "While telling you to be careful with money," Elliot confirmed. Cameron, she was preparing, getting ready for her new life. Ken Bryant was helping her plan the financial side, and she was building a public persona as a single woman ready to move on. I thought about the nights she'd come home late, claiming she'd been at networking events for the training center. The weekend she'd said she needed to visit her mother in Connecticut. The way she'd stopped asking about my day months ago. "There's one more thing," Elliot said. "Kowalski found bank records showing she's been paying for that apartment even when she's home with you. Which means she's been going there during the day, leaving Camila with babysitters and telling you she's at the office." "How many days a week?" I asked. 3 or 4, Elliot said. "Sometimes more." I closed my eyes. My daughter had been abandoned in plain sight while Kendra built her exit strategy. "Send everything to Monica," I said. "Every photo, every receipt, every timestamp. I want it all documented." After the call ended, I looked at one more photo on Kendra's hidden Instagram. It was from 2 weeks ago, before my accident. She was holding a champagne glass, smiling at the camera. The caption read, "The best revenge is a life well lived." Revenge? Against what? Against me? Against our marriage? Against Camila? My daughter called again that evening. We've been talking every night since that first call. "Dad, when are you coming home?" "Soon, sweetheart, I promised. The doctors say another week or 2. Mom says I can't visit you." Camila's voice was small. "She says hospitals are dangerous for kids." "Cammy, when I get out, we're going to spend so much time together," I said. "I promise." After we hung up, I stared at the ceiling. Kendra thought she'd built the perfect escape. But every photo, every receipt, every lie was evidence now. And evidence was something judges paid attention to. Getting Ken Bryant to meet me took exactly one carefully worded text message sent from a burner phone Elliot had arranged. "Need to discuss final payment arrangements for Kendra, right case. Prefer to meet in person." He responded within an hour, suggesting a coffee shop downtown. Public enough to feel safe, quiet enough for conversation. He thought he was meeting a potential client referred by Kendra. What he didn't know was that Elliot had already contacted the cafe manager and confirmed their security camera coverage. I checked myself out of the hospital against medical advice 2 hours before the meeting. The discharge nurse made me sign a waiver, concern written across her face. "Mr. Wright, you're still on strong medication. You're not supposed to drive." "I'm not driving," I assured her. Elliot was picking me up. The cafe was exactly as Brian had described it. Upscale, modern, the kind of place where people had quiet business conversations over $12 lattes. I arrived early, positioning myself at a corner table with my cane propped against the chair. The metal braces on both legs were visible under my pants. I wanted Bryant to see exactly what condition I was in when he'd helped my wife ambush me in the ICU. He walked in 15 minutes later, looking confident in an expensive suit and designer glasses. Mid-40s, fit, with the kind of smile that probably worked well on his clients. He scanned the room, spotted me, and his expression changed. Recognition, then calculation, then something like panic. He turned to leave, but I spoke up loud enough to carry. "Ken Bryant, sit down. We need to talk." Several other customers glanced over. Bryant's jaw tightened, but he walked to my table. Social pressure, the invisible force that keeps people from making scenes in public places. "Cameron," he said, trying to recover his composure as he sat. "I didn't realize that you'd be meeting the man whose life you try to destroy." I kept my voice level, conversational. "Funny how that works. Tell me, Ken, How long have you been planning this? Since the day I fired you 7 years ago. His face hardened. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. I leaned forward slightly, ignoring the pain the movement caused. You've been helping Kendra hide assets, open credit cards in my name, position herself to take everything including my daughter, all while I was lying in a hospital bed with 2 broken legs. That's not just revenge, Ken. That's systematic. You can't prove any of that, Bryant said, but his eyes flickered to the exits. Actually, I can. I pulled out my phone and set it on the table. Bank records, email exchanges, timeline of financial transactions, plus your LLC's involvement in at least 3 other divorce cases with similar patterns. But you know what's really interesting? Your wife doesn't know about any of this, does she? Brian's face went pale. You wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Tell Jennifer that her husband has been spending his days helping other women hide money from their husbands? Using consulting fees to cover up what's essentially coaching them through financial fraud. I smiled without humor. Jennifer Bryant, daughter of Harold Copeland. I wonder how her father would feel about his son-in-law's business practices. What do you want? Brian's voice had lost its confidence. I want you to walk away, I said quietly. Stop contacting Kendra. Stop giving her advice. Disappear from this situation entirely. And in exchange, your wife never needs to know that you've been playing financial advisor to my wife while trying to destroy me. Brian stared at me, his jaw working. Around us, the cafe continued its normal rhythm, but our corner table felt like a different world entirely. You're making a mistake, he finally said. No, Ken. You made the mistake 7 years ago when you decided to forge client records. And you made another one when you thought I wouldn't figure out what you and Kendra were planning. I picked up my phone. Now get out. And if I see your name on one more document, one more email, one more anything connected to my wife or my divorce, Jennifer gets a very detailed dossier about your consulting practice. Bryant stood, his face flushed with anger. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Then he turned and walked out without another word. I sat there for another 10 minutes, my hands shaking slightly as the adrenaline faded. Elliot slid into the chair Bryant had vacated. Got all of it, he said, patting his jacket pocket where he'd been recording everything from a nearby table. Every word, every threat he didn't quite make, every admission he didn't quite give. Good, I said, because Kendra is going to wonder why her advisor suddenly went silent. Let her wonder, Elliot replied. Panic people make mistakes. The first official notification arrived 3 days after my meeting with Ken Bryant. Subject line, Temporary Financial Restraint Order, Case hashtag 2024, DR 8847. No drama, no exclamation points. Just legal language written by people who understood that when systems move, they document rather than announce. I read it twice, then called Monica. It's live, she said before I could speak. All joint accounts frozen, pending review. Kendra can't move anything without court approval. Has she tried? I asked. Twice, Monica confirmed. Same device, both attempts logged. The system flagged them immediately. I imagined Kendra staring at her phone, refreshing her banking app, convinced there had to be some mistake. People who've always had access confuse it with entitlement. When it disappears, they take it personally. What about the business? I asked. That's more complicated, Monica admitted. But we filed a motion to freeze any major business decisions until the court reviews the ownership structure. Given that she had you sign documents while you were on pain medication in the ICU, the judge is paying attention. My lawyer, a man named Richard Collins whom Monica had recommended, called an hour later. We filed for emergency custody evaluation, Richard said, based on the school records, the parental alienation, and Camila's own statement that she wants to live with you. Will they listen to her? I asked. She's only 10. In family court, children 10 and older can express their preference, Richard explained. The judge doesn't have to follow it, but they do consider it. Combined with your wife's documented neglect, 23 missed school days, the lying about your hospitalization, it builds a strong case. That afternoon, hospital billing called. Mr. Wright, this is Denise from Patient Accounts. Your insurance coverage has been provisionally reinstated while the matter is under review. Provisionally? I asked. It means any charges incurred during your stay will be processed according to your original policy terms, Denise explained. The insurance company is investigating the timing of the changes made to your coverage. Another door, closing quietly behind Kendra. Another part of her plan falling apart. Monica called again that evening. Kendra's attorney reached out. She wants to negotiate. Already. I hadn't expected movement this fast. She's panicking, Monica said with satisfaction. Ken Bryant stopped returning her calls. Her bank accounts are frozen, and now she's facing a custody evaluation where her own daughter is going to tell a judge she doesn't feel safe with her mother. She thought she had everything planned perfectly. What's she offering? I asked. Split custody, no financial penalties, shared business ownership. Monica paused. It's a significant climb down from demanding you relinquish all parental rights. Tell her no, I said. She wanted to erase me from Camila's life while I was fighting to walk. Now she wants to negotiate. No. We go to court, and we let the evidence speak. Good, Monica said. Because judges remember parents who abandoned their spouse in the ICU. The custody evaluation took place in a small office that tried too hard to look friendly. Soft lighting, comfortable chairs, children's drawings on the walls. The evaluator was a woman named Dr. Patricia Simmons who'd been doing this work for 15 years. She'd already interviewed Kendra, reviewed the school records, and spoken with Camila's teachers. Now it was my turn. Mr. Wright, Dr. Simmons began, settling into her chair across from me. I've reviewed your case file. Can you tell me about your relationship with your daughter? I told her about the bedtime stories, the homework help, the way Camila used to leave me notes on my training materials. I explained the technical certifications I taught, how I'd always made sure to be home for dinner, how Camila and I had our Saturday morning tradition of making pancakes together. And you weren't aware she was missing school? Dr. Simmons asked. I had no idea, I said. Kendra handled the school communications. She told me everything was fine, that Camila was doing great. I trusted her. The admissions still stung. I trusted my wife to tell me if our daughter was struggling. Dr. Simmons made notes. Your wife says you were often absent due to work commitments. I teach technical certification courses, I explained. The schedule is structured. Classes run Tuesday through Thursday, 9 to 5. I'm home every evening and all weekend. I have emails, calendar records, everything documenting my schedule. And the apartment your wife was renting? Dr. Simmons asked. Were you aware of it? No, I said flatly. I found out through bank records after she served me divorce papers in the ICU. She was taking Camila to after-school care 3 or 4 days a week, telling me she had business meetings, and spending that time at a separate apartment I didn't know existed. Dr. Simmons wrote for a long moment. I've spoken with Camila. She's articulate for her age, very clear about her feelings. My chest tightened. What did she say? She said her mother is always on her phone, that she misses having dinner with you, that she doesn't understand why her mother lied about where you were. Dr. Simmons looked up. She also said she feels safer with you. Something in my throat closed up. I managed to nod. Mr. Wright, I'm going to be direct with you. Dr. Simmons continued. The evidence suggests a pattern of parental neglect by your wife and active alienation attempts. The timing of the divorce papers, served while you were hospitalized with serious injuries, including documents demanding you relinquish parental rights, shows concerning judgment. Combined with the financial deception and the secret apartment, this paints a picture of someone prioritizing her own interests over her child's well-being. What are you recommending? I asked. I'll be recommending primary custody to you, Dr. Simmons said, with supervised visitation for your wife until she completes parenting classes and demonstrates consistent, appropriate behavior. This isn't a decision I make lightly, Mr. Wright. But in this case, the evidence is clear. I sat there, gripping the arms of the chair, feeling something shift in my chest. Not victory. That would be too simple. This was relief. The system had actually worked. Thank you, I managed. Don't thank me, Dr. Simmons said. You documented everything. You stayed calm under pressure. And you put your daughter's needs first. That's what made the difference. When I left the office, Elliot was waiting in the parking lot. I leaned against his car, the walker supporting me, and let myself feel it. 3 weeks ago, I'd been lying in an ICU signing away my daughter because I didn't see another choice. Now I was getting her back. You good? Elliot asked. Yeah, I said. I'm good. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. No dramatic wood paneling or high ceilings like in movies. Just functional space with fluorescent lighting and chairs that had seen better days. Judge Maria Hendricks reviewed documents on her bench, reading glasses perched on her nose, expression unreadable. Kendra sat across the aisle with her attorney, her posture perfect, her face composed. She'd worn a conservative dress, minimal jewelry, playing the part of a reasonable woman caught in unfortunate circumstances. But I noticed her hands gripping her purse, knuckles white. Judge Hendricks looked up. I've reviewed Dr. Simmons' evaluation, the school records, and all submitted evidence. She glanced at Kendra. Mrs. Wright, you served divorce papers and parental rights relinquishment documents to your husband while he was hospitalized with severe injuries and on documented pain medication. Can you explain that timing? Kendra's attorney started to speak, but the judge held up her hand. I asked Mrs. Wright. Your Honor, I was overwhelmed, Kendra said, her voice steady. I wasn't thinking clearly about the timing. I just knew the marriage was over. You knew it was over, Judge Hendricks repeated. So much so that you'd been renting a separate apartment for 8 months, spending marital funds on personal cosmetic procedures totaling $21,000, and allowing your daughter to miss 23 days of school without informing your husband? Kendra's composure slipped slightly. I was trying to maintain stability. Stability, the judge interrupted, would have been ensuring your daughter attended school. Stability would have been honest communication with your spouse. What you did, Mrs. Wright, was systematically plan an exit strategy while deceiving your husband about your daughter's well-being and exploiting his medical emergency to gain advantage. The judge turned to me. Mr. Wright, you'll have primary physical and legal custody of Camila. Mrs. Wright will have supervised visitation, 4 hours every other Saturday, pending completion of parenting classes and 6 months of family therapy. Additionally, the business ownership will be restructured. Since you founded Tech Skills Certification Center and perform all technical work, you'll retain 75% ownership. Mrs. Wright will have 25% as recognition of administrative contributions, but no decision-making authority. She looked at Kendra again. The credit card fraud, and yes, Mrs. Wright, opening cards in your husband's name without his knowledge is fraud, will be reported to the appropriate authorities. You'll be responsible for those debts, totaling $47,000 in full. The apartment rental costs will be deducted from your settlement share. Mr. Wright's signature on those relinquishment papers is void due to his documented medical condition and the improper execution. Judge Hendricks leaned forward. And Mrs. Wright, if I hear that you've attempted to manipulate Camila against her father again, if you've violated visitation terms, if you've made any attempt to interfere with Mr. Wright's custody, I will terminate your parental rights entirely. This court takes parental alienation seriously. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor, Kendra whispered, her voice breaking slightly. Furthermore, the judge continued, Mr. Bryant's involvement in this matter has been forwarded to the State Bar Association for review. Advising someone to exploit a spouse's medical emergency crosses ethical lines. When court adjourned, Monica touched my arm. Full custody, business control, debts assigned to her. You won everything that mattered. I looked across the room at Kendra, who sat frozen, her attorney speaking urgently beside her while she stared at the table. I didn't feel triumph. I felt tired, relieved, and ready to move forward. No, I said quietly. Camila won. That's what matters. Outside, Elliot was waiting. How do you feel? Like I can finally breathe, I admitted. For the first time in months. 18 months later, I stood in the parking lot of Riverside Elementary, watching Camila walk out with her class. She spotted me immediately, her face lighting up the way it used to before everything fell apart. She ran over, backpack bouncing, ponytail swinging. Dad, guess what? I got an A on my science project. Mrs. Henderson said it was the best in the class. That's my girl, I said, pulling her into a hug. My legs barely ached anymore, just a dull reminder when weather changed. Physical therapy had done its job. I'd finished my last session 3 months ago, walking out on my own 2 feet with nothing but gratitude for the therapist who'd pushed me when I wanted to quit. The business was thriving. Without Kendra's administrative expenses, her secret apartment, shopping sprees, and $21,000 in cosmetic procedures, Tech Skills Certification Center had expanded rapidly. I'd hired 2 new instructors, leased a larger facility, and just signed a major contract with a tech company for comprehensive employee certification training. Revenue had doubled. Ken Bryant had quietly divorced. Jennifer had discovered his consulting practice's real nature and decided her father's money was better spent elsewhere. The state bar investigation had resulted in a formal censure. Last I heard, he was working retail somewhere in Connecticut, his reputation destroyed. Kendra used her supervised visits sporadically. She'd completed the required parenting classes, but seemed more interested in maintaining appearances than actual parenting. Her Instagram account, both of them, had gone silent. Camila was doing better, back to perfect attendance, her grades improving steadily, her confidence returning day by day. "Can Jenny come over for dinner?" Camila asked as we walked to the car. Jenny Martinez, the ICU nurse who'd helped me that first terrible day. We'd started talking during my follow-up appointments. Coffee leading to dinner, leading to something that felt solid and real. She understood what I'd been through because she'd witnessed it firsthand. "She's already planning it," I said. Said something about making her famous lasagna. Camila grinned. "She's really cool, Dad. I'm glad you met her. She actually listens when I talk about stuff." "Me too, sweetheart. She's special." That evening, sitting around the dinner table with Camila and Jenny, listening to my daughter excitedly explain her science project about renewable energy and solar panel efficiency, I realized something profound. Kendra had tried to reduce me to a problem she could walk away from. She'd seen my broken legs and decided I was finished, used up, no longer worth the effort. She'd been catastrophically wrong about what mattered. Strength wasn't about never falling. It was about getting back up, documenting every step, and fighting for what was worth fighting for. It was about choosing patience over rage, evidence over emotion, and love over revenge. "Dad, you're not listening," Camila said, waving her hand in front of my face. "I'm explaining the important part about energy conversion." "Sorry, Cammy. Tell me again about the solar panels." As she launched into her explanation with enthusiasm, Jenny caught my eye across the table and smiled. "Not everything broken stayed broken. Some things healed stronger than before. Some relationships built on truth lasted longer than those built on convenience. And some battles, the ones you fought with patience and evidence and unwavering focus, those were the ones you actually won." This wasn't about revenge. It never had been. It was about protecting my daughter, reclaiming my life, and proving that quiet strength beats loud cruelty every single time. Looking at Camila's animated face as she talked about photovoltaic cells and energy efficiency, I knew I'd made the right choices. Not the easy ones. Not the ones that felt good in the moment. The hard ones. The patient ones. But the right ones. And that made all the difference in the world.